There is a distinct quiet right before you hit enter. You're trying to determine how to speak to a machine that's ingested the entire internet. For years, the standard advice has been to start with a specific instruction. Millions of times a day, users type some variation of the same phrase. You are an expert in this field. We do this because it feels logical. We assume the machine possesses a latent tier of reasoning that this specific label activates. Ask a plain question, get a competent answer. Add the expert preface, and the output visibly shifts. Sentences elongate. Bullet points appear. Phrasing becomes definitive. Key considerations becomes critical considerations. Vocabulary shifts to technical turns, adopting the cadence of a senior consultant. The formatting is sharper, and the tone is highly authoritative. However, the actual information hasn't changed. The considerations are identical. The logical blind spots remain. Humans associate professional tone with expertise. When the machine mimics that style, it creates an illusion of high-level thought while processing the same underlying data. To see why the expertise is an illusion, we have to look at what the model is actually doing when it generates text. The entire system operates on a mechanism called next token prediction. It does not pull from a distinct database of facts based on the persona you assign. Instead, it reviews the preceding string of text and calculates the statistical probability of what the very next word should be. Introducing the word expert changes the math. The most plausible words following expert claims are formal, structured, and confident. The model routes output through a professional register. It doesn't compute differently or spend more processing power verifying claims. If the model would hallucinate a fact or miss a logical step without the preface, it makes the exact same error with it. It will simply state that error with total conviction. A credential preface triggers a statistical echo, a convincing mimicry of expert speech that remains detached from the model's actual logic. If the technique doesn't improve the reasoning, it's worth asking why it remains the most common piece of advice in prompt engineering tutorials. Years ago, this explicit framing served a specific purpose. Early models required it to prevent them from slipping into casual or erratic output. You had to enforce a persona to get a usable answer. Modern models undergo extensive post-training. The professional tone is the default. You're requesting behavior it's already executing. This analysis identifies a measurement problem. When users see a highly structured, authoritative response, they often record it as more accurate without testing if the reasoning actually improved. We continue to use advice built for older technology. We confuse the activation of a default stylistic mask for a genuine capability upgrade. Improving these interactions requires a move away from assigning static identities toward the use of dynamic functional roles. Telling the machine it is a senior consultant provides a title. It uses that title to adjust its tone. A functional role provides a job description. It specifies what the model should do with the information and the exact perspective it should take. Instead of asking for considerations on a plan as an expert, instruct the AI to act as a reviewer, looking for specific gaps and failure modes in that plan. This demands a different kind of computation. The AI stops listing common considerations and begins calculating a critique. Functional framing reaches the substance of the output. The perspective of a critic requires a different structural logic than a neutral observer. Defining the lens through which the machine evaluates data forces it to align its computational power with the specific insights you need. The specific way that we frame our initial query defines the exact boundaries of the answer we receive. Attempting to force a machine to adopt a human identity misunderstands the actual nature of its processing. A credential buys a confident surface. It writes longer words, makes bolder claims, leaving the underlying logic completely untouched. Direct the machine to a specific place to stand, a defined perspective, and a clear frame to look through. Genuine insight from artificial intelligence is the result of clearly defining the job we need the system to execute.